Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to call to order the meeting of the Maricopa County Community College District Governing Board for April 25th, 2017. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Alex Caraveo from South Mountain, are you with us? Would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Would you take the podium, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Caraveo. The next, first of all, let me announce substitutions. Herman Gonzalez is here for Paul Dale.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gonzalez. Sue Tabacoli for Ernie Lara. And Barbara Basil for LaKoya Shelton. It's not Basil, I told you. It's Basil. Inside joke. Student life reports. South Mountain Community College Student Public Policy Forum.
Good evening, President Gutierrez, members of the board, Dr. Maria Harper-Marinick, members of the CEC and guests. My name is Stephanie Glossbrenner, Chair of Student Governance. My major is nursing and I'm graduating this May.
Hello, my name is Dina Gonzalez.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dina Gonzalez. I'm Center at Student Governance. I'm majoring in criminal justice, and I'm looking forward to graduating this fall 17 and transferring to ASU.
Hello, my name is Fabiola Villegas. I am co-secretary of Student Governance. I am majoring in education. I will be graduating in May 2018 and transferring over to NAU.
Hello, my name is Alex Caraveo. I am graduating this fall of 2017. I am double majoring in both aerospace and astronautical engineering, and I will be transferring over to Georgia Tech.
Hello, my name is Alexis Beasley. I am a senator for student governance. I am an English major. I am graduating next spring, and I will be transferring over to Chicago University.
Hello, my name is Hanan Robinson. I am Secretary of Student Governance, and my major is Women and Gender Studies. I hope to transfer to ASU, and my graduation date is actually this May.
Hi, my name is Gideon Winyata. I'm a Senator for Student Government, and I'll be graduating in May 2017, and my major is Associate Computer Science. Sorry.
Now that you all met our wonderful student governance, we've presented a PowerPoint for you guys. Just so you guys can see, we tried adding a bunch of pictures. The top is just our mascot, Cougar, and to show like the top right how fun he is. He loves to dance. And then the bottom's just some of our activities. So this is our mission. The Student Governance Board strives to promote and provide programs, services, and events for the students and staff of South Mountain Community College, and that's us. Here are some clubs that we have on campus. Here are 3 pictures of them. That top one is the STEMS Club, and those are some of the flowers they grew. That middle picture is the Veterans Club. They did a root beer float for our spring fling, and if you see in the back, we have our jousting. Then the bottom is Phi Theta Kappa, and they did a raffle for them. Within our student government, we do a bunch of collaboration. That first picture is our women's luncheon. We collaborated with the Women's Rising chapter. men's luncheon with the men's club. We had taco days with registration. So what we did was, if you already registered, you get a free taco. We did it for like 4 or 5 weeks. And we actually had higher enrollment, so it was really awesome. Yeah. And we had a lot of
Those were
tacos,
good
so
tacos.
Ranch Market loved us. I'm sorry? So that last picture at the top is our spring fling, and that is the Women's Rising. And we did it with Interclub Council. So at our school, we have Interclub Council, which is all the clubs, and every other Tuesday we sit around and we think about what big fun events we can do as a club. That bottom left, we did a big haunted house, our whole student union. It was about 4 rooms. So it was really awesome. And we charged $1 and we made about $80-$90 from that. So yeah, and everybody said it was super scary. So then that bottom picture is Glenn Ellis. He is a GCU coordinator. We barely met him this semester, but he is awesome. He donates a bunch of food and whatever we need to South Mountain. So he's really, really important. So he's awesome. We do a lot of leadership training also at South Mountain. That top one is our 3-day retreat in Prescott. It was fun, but it was outdoors, so we did leadership 6 days at ASU, and then the 1-day retreat at Gateway. We do have college committees, which we sit on. So we do have the Learning Council, Student Development Council, Organizational Effectiveness and Technology, and we have shared governance, which is really awesome because we can put our input in it, and it's nice because shared governance asked us, we get to decide where graduation was. Who did we want for the commencement speakers? So it was really, really nice. We do a lot of civic engagement as well. The top picture is Make a Difference Day at St. Mary's Food Bank, where we help build boxes for the food bank. That second picture is Martin Luther King Day, and we clean up a local park. And that last picture is for Hispanic Heritage Month, and then there's the chancellor in the middle. So it's nice. Community outreach. So we do, as I said, a lot of volunteer work. For example, we do the Andre House Soup Line. We do that about once a month, and there's about 400 plates that we serve there. We have St. Vincent and de Paul every first Friday, and there's 150 pizzas within 2 hours that we prepare and serve. Then we have St. Mary's Food Bank, which is twice a month, and it's held at our school. Yearly, we did, there was 4,759 people, so monthly, that's about 400. We have this thing called Gabriel's Food Pantry, where if you're a student, you can come get 1 free meal. So we have cup of noodles, mac and cheese, granola bars. So this year, we did 5,150 students. Monthly, that's about 515. Daily, that's about 103. To remind you guys, that is 3,000 more than last year. So it is upcoming. We do a bunch of campus events. So we do the stress relief for finals because stress spelled backwards is desserts. So we did cupcakes and gingerbread. This year we're doing ice cream for finals. So it's ice cream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. So trash your insecurities was for self-improvement month. You just write your insecurities, rip it up, throw it in the trash. So it was nice. LGBTQIA Pride Wall. So that is just to show your love to everybody. And you could just write little messages. We have the SMCC trivia at that bottom, and that's just to encourage students to learn the resources on campus and to make sure that they know about South. University Transfer Resource Fair, so we can encourage people to transfer and that they can have information not just from the 3 major universities. Then that bottom one is Cougar Day, and that's for the high school students so that we can encourage them to come to South Mountain. Here is all of our graduates that are in student government that are graduating this year. And thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you, and congratulations to all of you for all you do, and 2, for some pretty exciting plans for the future. Thank you. The Public Policy Forum.
Governing Board President Gutierrez, Governing Board members, Chancellor Harper-Marinick, members of CEC and guests, my name is Deanna Villanueva Saucedo, and it's my honor to introduce you to the 2017 Student Public Policy Forum. We affectionately refer to this group as our Spiffers. This has been a district-wide program for over a decade and has over time changed in terms of format. Currently, we hold 2 cohorts of POS 285 in the fall, with students learning both in class and in biweekly sessions with guest speakers, a focus on experiential learning. Students who successfully complete in the fall can apply for the Spring Academy. Our spring spiffers are Aza Abosaif, Elizabeth Farindelli, Nick Gustav, Brady Newman, Danielle Mikhalik, Mark Mushrow, Mark Overton, Zach St. Martin, Maggie Teodoro, and Jacqueline White. I'd like now to have Jacqueline, Brady, and Danielle come forward to tell you a little bit about their year in spiff.
Thank you.
Good evening, Governing Board, President Gutierrez, members of the board, members of the CEC, Chancellor Harper-Marinick, and guests. Thank you for your time this evening to present to you about our year in spiff, the Student Public Policy Forum. This unique and innovative program encouraged us to become better educated students, further engaged community members, and more empowered citizens through its unique hands-on format and public policy-oriented academia. SPIF has instilled in us a sense of civic responsibility, and we have all come away with a greater understanding and appreciation for the power of engagement and knowing about this policy. And for most of us students, we became particularly passionate about government and how we can utilize it and be civically engaged to create positive change and influence in our future paths. In addition to online work and classes, we had multiple opportunities to be engaged in our community and learn through experiences. Through this coursework and interactive portion of SPIF Academy, the truly unique opportunity it afforded us was not just the knowledge, but the sense of civic engagement it inspired us to have. We were given the platform to become more engaged citizens in our government and communities, and in doing so, we were challenged to improve ourselves as students and leaders in a variety of skills such as public speaking, networking, and effective advocacy. We also grew in our abilities to present and to discuss policy and politics with a greater understanding of the intricacies involved while remaining pragmatic and relying on our knowledge rather than approaching issues with loaded emotion. And our spiffers were all unique with their own diverse backgrounds and perspectives, but were able to be engaged in spirited discussions, deliberate respectfully, and reach consensus while working together. You don't have to be a political science major to be in SPIF. I'm a business administration with a focus in global politics, so a little bit there. And we had a variety of students from all backgrounds, interests, and ages. This even includes a variety of schools, as there were 2 classes in the fall, one located in Mesa and one at Glendale. Those that successfully completed the class are invited to apply at the Spring SPIF Academy. During both the fall and spring semesters, SPIF provided so many experiences to grow and network with those in the public policy arena. We had opportunities to meet with City Hall, members such as Mayor John Giles, and staff, and even a familiar face here, Chancellor Maria Harper-Marinick. And outside of regular sessions, we had the chance to participate in events such as Arizona Town Hall. Furthermore, I recently won Special Rapporteur at the Model United Nations Far West Conference, which is an accolade dependent upon performance and speech, which I can without a doubt attribute to SPIF, as it challenged me to become a better and more confident public speaker. And I'll pass the mic to my colleague, Brady.
So to go over some more of the highlights of just kind of what we've experienced in the Student Public Policy Forum, one of the really cool ones was our first visit to the state capitol. It was cool not only because it gave that firsthand direct experience in the policy process, and not only that we got to meet legislators, but we actually got to do a mock vote on the House floor, which was, fully fleshed out. It was a really cool experience, honestly. Most people don't kind of get that chance. Another amazing highlight, which we really can't talk good enough about in SPIF, is our trip to D.C. We got caught in a snowstorm, funny enough. It was that nor'easter one that was all on the news, but it didn't stop us from meeting with a lot of really, really fascinating legislators. We got ex-policymakers. We met with fantastic individuals who know all about the policy process, and they passed on a lot of intricate educational information, if I could get that out. But the biggest part about SPIF, in my personal opinion, is not necessarily what we learn, but how we in turn give back to the community that taught us. And so this has been done throughout all of the colleges we represent, whether it's been through veteran fundraisers, whether it's been through raffles and other sorts of fundraising events, or through mental health awareness keynotes like the one at Paradise Valley Community College. That one was a very fantastic one, and it really highlights the sort of ways that we seek to give back to the community after learning, what the community takes in order to, kind of run it through a policy aspect. So I'm going to pass the mic on over.
SPIF is a great program with a lot of structure and experiences, but it also gave us confidence to put ourselves out there, network, and make connections we might not have made otherwise. When we flew to Washington, D.C., we happened to be on the same flight as Senator John McCain. Our eyes lit up at the opportunity to network with our first big fish. We introduced ourselves and informed him of who we are and the SPIF program, and that we were heading to DC to speak with the staff and other Arizona representatives. By pure luck, one of our students, Maggie, was seated next to him on the flight. We all quietly grumbled at her luck and chanced to network with him further, but we were so excited for our fellow SPIFers' opportunity. The students and I started an unspoken competition amongst ourselves to see who can make the most and best network connections. Our trip to DC became our Super Bowl of sorts. While in DC, it was the same time that the National League of Cities was there, and we had a chance to meet Glendale Mayor Jerry Wires. We seemed to run into him constantly throughout our trip and discovered that he was on our return flight home. Myself and another Glendale Community College student, Elizabeth, seized the opportunity to talk with him further. This turned out to be a great decision because he introduced us to Governor Doug Ducey and Congressman Paul Gosar, who happened to be in the airport. The mayor even later tweeted about it. SPIF helped us learn about government policy, politics, but also much more. It opened our eyes to the power of engagement and making positive connections. The SPIF program has been a life-changing opportunity for every single person. We have all grown and learned valuable skills that we will take with us into our future. I personally can stand here and tell you I am a different person than I was on the first day of SPIF. I started SPIF very shy and lacking confidence. I was one of the oldest students in the cycle, and that intimidated me, and I wasn't sure I'd be able to keep up with the younger students. I am 30 years old, and to be completely honest with you, I never dreamed I'd even go to college, let alone succeed in it. I took a different route out of high school and joined the Army right after graduation. I love the Army and planned on making it my life. Unfortunately, fate doesn't always work out the way we want it to. I was injured while serving in Iraq and then medically retired at age 24. I took that hard and pulled away from my family, friends, and community. I fell into a deep depression and hit rock bottom in 2012. I was homeless and had to live on the street and in shelters. It was then I decided to wake up and get back on my feet. I enrolled in Glendale Community College in 2014. I had no idea what I was interested in and doubted I would be successful. However, it was my first big step after spending the last couple of years crawling. I wasn't about to go backwards. I took a political science class on a whim and needing an elective. It was there I found my passion. I decided to take another political science class. This time, it was SPIF. It was here I found my purpose and myself. SPIF helped me find my confidence again. This program helped me to realize that not only do I have a purpose and a passion, but I can also succeed. On behalf of my fellow students, I would like to thank you for supporting this program and making this possible for students. SPIF has been a life-changing opportunity, and it is something we will not take for granted and will always carry with us. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Not a question, just a comment from a fellow veteran. Thank you very much for your service and for that extraordinary story. And thank you to all of you for participating in this. This is a wonderful program, and you guys are living proof of it. So thank you. Ms. Livingston.
I have one question, and yes, your story is amazing. Your fortitude and what you've not only done for our country, but for yourself. So thank you. But who made the most connections? I know there was a race. Did you? All right. Okay.
I don't want to brag.
Okay.
I did go home with a lot of business cards that I was very proud of, and I thought that I had won, And then Jackie started posting pictures on her social media page with the Secretary of State for Arizona. So Jackie won.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you all very much, and congratulations to you. College reports, Mesa Community College.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, Chancellor, CEC, and guests, I'd like to ask Mr. Dwayne Oakes to please come to the podium to introduce our Coca-Cola Scholars. I'd also like to ask Ms. Nora Reyes, Vice Provost of the Red Mountain campus, to please come forward as well. Both of these students happen to be from our Red Mountain campus.
President Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor Harper-Marinek, and members of the CEC and guests. My name is Dwayne Oakes, and I represent Mesa Community College as our faculty director for our Center for Community and Civic Engagement and the advisor to Phi Theta Kappa, which is the National Honor Society for the college. I've asked Dr. Nora Amavisca Reyes, who represents Mesa Community College as our Vice Provost for the Red Mountain campus, to help us present these two special awards. Each year, MCC and many other colleges have the opportunity to nominate 2 students to the All-USA Community College Academic Team. This competition is sponsored by the Coca-Cola Foundation and administered by Phi Theta Kappa. Each year, 1,800 students are nominated to this prestigious award. Over the years, we've had a number of students who have been recognized as some of the top scholars, and I've actually given you a list of our past scholars. Today, we're here to recognize 2 students who have just been named to the 2017 Coca-Cola Community College Academic Team. This is basically the top 20 students are the All-USA Academic Team. The next 50 are the Coca-Cola Gold Team, and the next 50 are the Coca-Cola Silver Team. So it's my pleasure to recognize, and we're going to present their Coca-Cola Gold Medallion to Miss Jessica Siegel, who is from our Red Mountain campus. And Mr. Zach Martin, St. Martin, who is receiving the Coca-Cola Silver Medallion as one of the Coca-Cola. Each of these students have given many hours of service to our community, many leadership experiences as they served as Phi Theta Kappa officers, been involved in many other areas and made a difference as future civic leaders. We're proud of them. So thank you.
Congratulations to both of you, and thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. The next item is Citizens Interim. This is an opportunity for members of the governing board to address, or rather members of the public to address the governing board. In compliance with the open meeting law, we will not respond or discuss the items that we hear from you. We may, however, schedule a discussion that's posted on that subject at a later date. So there will be no response. That you should not take that as either rudeness or not caring. It is in compliance with the open meetings law. The process is that you'll approach the podium as you're called. In 4 minutes, Ms. Smith will let me know, or that machine will let us know, that you have some seconds to wrap up. It'll give you an opportunity to wrap up. So I'm going to call these out in the order that we received them. Let me announce, however, that if you have not filled out one of these, you still have an opportunity to do so while we are on Citizens Interim, and you wish to speak to the board. The first person we're calling out is Rodney David Hallberg. Mr. Hallberg.
President Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor Report, members of CEC and guests. My name is Rodney David Hallberg. I'm a student at Rio Salado College. I need to bring a matter to your attention that is most pressing over someone that I very much care about, who is a former student at Scottsdale Community College. I will not name her because she does not wish to be named at this time, however. She was part of the CCIP program, and she came to this country with hopes of studying and learning more and pursuing her dreams of being a journalist. She came here and she had an issue that went to student affairs. It's difficult for me to say the issue because of what it details, but I will be brief. I will try. It was relating to someone who sexually assaulted her, a student, and someone she trusted, who was in the journalism department and who worked at the Scottsdale Chronicle, the school newspaper. When she went to student affairs, she didn't want to press charges originally when they confronted her. But eventually she changed her mind and wanted to pursue justice in any form she could, if something. Unfortunately, the result was not what she expected, and I am here to address some of the findings that were in that result that were very concerning to me as a student and as a citizen. The Student Affairs Division, who investigated, essentially allowed the defendant in this case to slut shame the victim. He said that she wanted it, he defined that she enjoyed it, and he stated that it was completely consensual, that he did nothing wrong. The witnesses who were interviewed were not witnesses who could testify to the woman's character, and the witnesses that were identified were very biased to the defendant. One was a former girlfriend of his who hated the individual who brought this forward. One was a former friend who had actually contacted her and told her that she had no desire to get involved and that she should just forget what happened to her and move on. Another individual was a professor who was at the school, who, when the victim brought forward that something may have happened, the professor said, well, you should just go speak to someone with, who can help you with this. I'm not sure I can help you. And she falsely claimed that I myself had sent her veiled threats, which was a total lie. I'm very frustrated with some of the statements that were in this result right here, which essentially defame the character of a very good woman who won the Chancellor's medallion, who has a 3.5 GPA at Scottsdale Community College, a 4.0 GPA at GCC, and recently won another scholarship. And the result that I read in here was totally abhorrent when they said that her words are not credible. They did not take into account also that she's from a foreign country with different cultural values than ours, and that English is her second language. They stated that, well, there were inconsistencies. When you ask questions to a person who's English being her second language, do you think she understands everything? Or do you ask her, do you understand this? I will wrap up because my time is closing. I ask the board to please, and the Student Affairs Division at SCC, to really take into consideration the rights of victims and not to say that, well, how can we help you? And then just say that's okay. No. Victims should go to Student Affairs and have their rights protected. And I will close with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hallberg. Let me say again that the board's silence in this matter does not indicate that we did not hear your words. It is following the open meeting law. It is our legal obligation not to respond. Thank you, Mr. Hallberg.
Thank you, President Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor Marionette.
Ms. Melina, I'm going to pronounce it Priewe.
That's good.
How would you pronounce it?
Priewe.
Priewe. Ms. Melina Priewe.
Good morning. Well, good morning. Good evening. Sorry. Long day. Thank you so much for hearing our concerns. My name is Melina Priewe. Members of the governing board, Chancellor Maria Harper-Marinick, members of the CCEC, and President Gutierrez and guests. Thank you for allowing me to speak today.
I'm here on behalf of MCC's Children's Center that's been open for 42 years at MCC. It is an amazing program. We recently heard that there was possibility of it closing. So the entire MCC community was just devastated. Students were upset, parents were upset, faculty, staff were upset. It is such an amazing program. I currently am faculty at Mesa Community College. I have a 4-year-old daughter who attends the preschool as well. I went everywhere beforehand looking at preschool programs that were available, and without a doubt, MCC's Children's Center is unbelievably amazing. First things first, everything recommends that 90% of the brain develops by the age of 5, and early learning is critical. In our math department, we actually have a preschool graduate of the Children's Center. She works in our math department as a student worker. It's the granddaughter of one of our deans, and so this has been a program that has been around forever. I just can't go on about the quality of the program. We have students who go into the Children's Center, and they, for example, our psychology students go in, they learn Piaget theory, and then they go into the program and they actually observe the children. Our nursing students go into the program and they take the height, weight measurements of the students. It's very interactive. Our community gets involved. Our international students come into the program. It is just unbelievable program. So when we heard that there was a possible closure, like I said, we were just absolutely devastated. We were really confused about why it was closing. To have such an amazing program and then just to hear that it's shutting down, we had no idea why. We were trying to figure out why this would be. We're beyond thrilled to hear that as of right now, that decision to close the Children's Center and replace it with a Head Start, we're hearing that that's pretty much not happening at this time. However, we realize that that could be a possibility. It could come up again. And so we just would really like, just I guess the transparency and knowing the reasons why. We do understand that Head Start is a great program, but Head Start won't serve all of our students. Currently, the Children's Center serves every single student, has an equal opportunity to bring their children there. We have so many students who come in, they drop off their children, they go to their classes, they study, they come back, they pick up their children, and it's affordable childcare that allows our students to be able to attend classes. I had several students who, when they first found out, they were like, I can't go to school. I'm not going to be able to attend school. Like, I have nowhere affordable that I could take my children. What am I going to do? So it's a big concern. I know my time's wrapping up, so I'll make it fast. Like I said, I know that Head Start is great, but it will not serve all of our students. I did write a letter that I had sent on to the governing board, and 77 of our faculty and staff signed this, just encouraging the Children's Center to remain open. I do realize that if I would have had more than a day or so, I guarantee I could have collected more signatures, because every single person that I've run into at MCC talks so highly of the program. So we really hope that you'll consider keeping this program. It's just so valuable. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Freely. Ms. Julia Sheehan.
President Gutierrez, members of the board, Dr. Harper Marinick, members of the CEC, and guests. My name is Julia Sheehan, and I am currently in my second block of the nursing program at the Mesa Community College campus, pursuing my associate's degree in nursing, and I am a concurrent enrollment student with Northern Arizona University, pursuing my Baccalaureate of Science in Nursing. I'm also a student in the Student Nurse Association, and I'm a member of Phi Beta Kappa. Most importantly, I'm a single mother to the most amazing little girl named Olivia Sheehan, who currently attends the MCC Children's Center. She started attending when she was 3 years old in the summer of 2016, and she turned 4 last November. I'm speaking to you today not just as a student, but as a concerned mother. When choosing a college to attend while pursuing my dreams of becoming a nurse, the most important factor in my decision when choosing the Mesa campus was the quality 5-star rating of the MCC Children's Center. I did a lot of research prior to making my decision, and I interacted with the highly qualified staff and teachers before I began the nursing program in the fall of 2016. As a mother, leaving my daughter in the care of others is always a difficult choice. I have never felt so confident that not only my child's safety is being met there, but that her educational needs in these critical early stages of her life are also being cultivated. Last semester, I was awarded a full-time First Things First scholarship that covers the cost of my child care expenses at the MCC Children's Center, and it is solely offered through the MCC Children's Center. That has been invaluable to my daughter and I. Due to the strenuous demands of the concurrent enrollment nursing program and the demands of being a single mother, I have been unable to work at this time, and my entire income is based on grants, scholarships, and loans. The child care expense scholarship that I was awarded has saved me over $7,000 in the last year alone. Without that, I would have had to cover these costs by taking out additional student loans. As a student at your school, I would hope that my continued success be a priority. Because I have a full-time scholarship at the MCC Children's Center, I have been able to maintain a GPA of 3.78 at MCC and 3.91 at NAU. I utilize all my daytime hours when my daughter is at the Children's Center focusing on my studies. Monday through Friday, if I'm not in class or at clinical rotations, I can be found in the library on campus. This has been the key to my success in the nursing program. As an MCC student nurse, I have been taught many valuable tools during my time so far in the nursing program. One of the core values that has been instilled in our curriculum is the ethical principle of advocacy. As a future nurse, it is my duty and responsibility to advocate on behalf of my patients in order to provide safe nursing care and provide positive patient outcomes. Today, I stand before you as an advocate for my child. I am her voice, and she is my greatest responsibility in life, and as a mother, that's my duty. Since my daughter began at the MCC Children's Center, she has truly began to blossom and thrive. Her counting ability continues to improve. She knows all her ABCs and recognizes every letter of the alphabet. She can write her own name. Her vocabulary has significantly advanced, and she truly enjoys learning and reading. She has a fondness and a special bond with the teachers there, and they truly foster her development and enrich her life. I cannot see how removing such a quality program from the Mesa Community College campus, which provides such a valuable service to parents of young children, could possibly be a solution. As a student parent, I ask that you take a closer look at any decision to partner outside or close the MCC Children's Center. If you look at the success rates of students that utilize this program while pursuing degrees, I expect that you will find a high percentage of graduates. Compare the quality of care being offered to students if this change takes place. I was originally accepted to the Phoenix College Nursing Program, and I did decline based on the child care services offered through that campus. So I do ask that you reconsider any decision to close the MCC Children's Center. I want to thank you in advance for taking the time to listen to my concerns, and I ask that you continue to foster not just the success of your parent student population, but the young minds of the children currently attending the MCC Children's Center. Thank you so
Ms.
much.
Sheehan. Mr. Rocco.
Members of the Governing Board, Chancellor Maria Harper Merrick, members of the CEC, President Gutierrez, and distinguished guests. My name is Peter Rocco. I am an environmental consultant living in Tempe, Arizona. I do not have a presentation, but I did scribble some notes in my Mickey Mouse coloring book. My wife is an immigrant to the United States. She is a first-generation student attending Mesa Community College. She is she's studying in the early childhood education program. And through a federal grant through the work study program, she was also an employee at the Mesa Community College's Children's Center. Regarding your deliberations about the Children's Center, I ask you to consider keeping it as it is and not turning it over to another entity to run for 3 reasons. The first is we attended private childcare before we were at MCC, and while the costs of that program are prohibitive and the logistics of going to an off-campus school are not completely a problem for students, it does make it very difficult for parents to attend school. It is much more convenient and is not a barrier if the childhood education is available on campus and at the cost it is provided. Secondly, having the education, the childcare system on campus is an opportunity for students to gain work experience, particularly students like my wife who are studying to be educators. Third, the education system, the childcare center there creates a great community environment. There's relations amongst the parents, the teachers are great, there's lots of education for us to learn to become better parents and better students, and I'm sure that that relationship helps improve retention of your students. I know that you have a lot of difficult decisions to make in your positions, but I ask you to consider keeping the school open. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arco. Mr. Paul Bartels.
Hey, good evening. May I shut this laptop? Is that cool? It's just open. I'm going to shut it down. Is that cool?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, awesome. My name is Paul Bartels. I'm just a student and a citizen. I go to PBCC. It's my second semester back to school. I just kind of want to jump right into it. I have a written a written paper by a young girl. Her name's Avon Amuraku. She's 15 years old. She already goes to PBCC. She's an awesome young lady. It's about as awesome as they get. She's already graduated high school, and she's actually taking trigonometry, which is way further than what I take. And she also just got her braces off, and she has a beautiful smile, and she smiles all the time, and it's awesome. But here's her experience. There was a crowd gathering around Brother Dean, who I had to pass with my 2 friends, Kaylee Wright and Jada. To get to the parking lot, Brother Dean was shouting a monologue about if a woman did certain things, wears leggings, etc., then they deserve to be raped. He was also wearing a shirt with a painting with a finger on it that read, "You deserve rape." This made me incredibly upset that things of this nature were allowed to be said on campus. I thought of how there might have been people in the crowd or who had passed by that and had been harassed or raped. I would never want anyone, male or female, to think that a situation like that would be their fault. Because I was so angered, I yelled at Brother Dean, saying something along the lines of, "How dare you say that? No one deserves to be raped." I do not remember his response. When I left, I heard him say something about whore or slut. I looked over at him, and he looked at me, and we scowled at each other. I don't remember if he pointed at me or my friends or not. Later, anytime he saw me, I felt him give me a dirty look. This all happened April 3rd, 2017. I mentioned a young lady by the name of Kaylee Wright. I was with Kaylee Wright at the park last night, and we were talking, and I've really reached out to her and told her a lot about this, and she's been kind of just awesome with what to figure out, and she's so positive, and she always stays really on topic of just loving others and not losing hope, and she is allowing me to share the story of her rape, and she was raped 3 years ago. Without sparing too much details, because that was her first time bringing it up to me, she didn't really tell me too much. She didn't really want to talk about it. I know she said that she struggled with and still struggles with PTSD. She's been to therapy for about a year. This young lady was also with Avon the day that this happened. I've been told that you all don't really know to the severity of what happens at my campus, and I'm kind of confused that there's actually more laws and rules and regulations for students in sexual harassment than there is for non-affiliate members on campus. My concern is that women and men of all ages are having hate speech and sexual harassment put upon them, and it simply, quite frankly, feels like this is the people to talk to make something happen. President Gutierrez, I read your bio. I want you to think back to when you were simply Alfredo and you went to the University of Arizona And I don't know quite what happened with your story, but I know that there were some people that you stuck up for. So please think to the day when you were around my age, and that's something that you, I don't know, probably wanted to take care of as well. So just on a finishing note, Kaylee Wright's graduation is coming up. She'll be speaking at Dream City Church in Phoenix, May 12th at 7 p.m. She's probably one of the most inspirational women I'll ever meet in my life, and she's one of the future leaders of this state and this country. So if you guys would like to have some inspiration and hear a fellow student and a fellow leader speak, that's the day to go. That's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bartels.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board? Yes, ma'am. I would appreciate it, but if you just go to the podium and identify yourself, that would be good.
President Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor. My name is Sunrisa McLaughlin. I'm a prospective nursing student currently completing prerequisites at MCC. I will hopefully be attending my first block next spring. I'm here on behalf of the parents and the children that are currently served by the faculty and staff at the Children's Center at Mesa Community College. Thank you for taking the time to hear my comments. I'd just like to say how much we have appreciated the center and everything they do. In preparing for this meeting, I realized that MCC Children's Center is honestly my favorite part about going to MCC. I have such peace of mind knowing that Trip is being cared for and is safe and happy. My son is 5 and he attends the preschool there 2 days a week right now. I'm able to focus on my work and get good grades. I know he loves it there because he sometimes isn't very happy to see me when I come to pick him up and he wants to stay longer. The option we have for campus childcare is outstanding. The cost makes it affordable to go to school and juggle having kids at the same time. We pay $5 an hour less than the daycares in the area that would not provide close to the same amount of service that we're getting from the current MCC childcare. It's a huge impact on our budget, and I can't even imagine how much more for a single mom. I also feel like I'm setting a good example for my son in valuing education, and I hope it will have a lasting impact on him. He's starting school next year, but next spring I'll hopefully be starting nursing blocks here at MCC, and I have been counting on having the center here to help with my daughter, who will be 3 at the time. I really want to point out that one of the biggest draws to this preschool is the staff. All of them are constantly smiling and cheerful. They engage with the students so well and are totally available to parents. They are top of the line childcare professionals, and you can truly see the love for the kids and the job they are doing. I'd like to say that I know this decision is not simple for you as it seems to us. I know that there are many aspects involved, but I would ask that you consider every possible option to help keep the center the same. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I did bring my son along, and he might want to say a couple words, if that's okay with the board. You want to tell him? Tell him what your name is and how old you are.
My name's Trip. 5 months old.
5 years. 5 years old. And why do we come here today?
Because I didn't want my school to be closed up.
Because we want who to go there?
My sister to be there and learn stuff new.
And be loved on by all the teachers too. Do you like your teachers?
Yeah.
They're great, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Guthrie. That completes citizens' interest. I did want to make one comment before we go on. Brother Dean is well known to us and presents some extraordinary First Amendment challenges, I didn't want anyone to feel that we are unaware or uncaring. And everyone should be aware of the challenges that the First Amendment presents in an institution like ours. And I said that after citizens' interim. Did you notice that? I had already closed it, so it's legal. The next item on the agenda is the Chancellor's Report. Chancellor Harper-Marinick.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board. On April 14th, we had a wonderful celebration to acknowledge the excellent work of some of our adjunct faculty. So I wanted to make our board members aware of how impressive all of them are, how dedicated they are to our students and the success of the students. So I have given you a packet so you can read the bios of all of the people that were recognized by the colleges, but some of them are here tonight. And I would like to introduce them. And before I do that, I wanted to thank Gail Haas, who is the president of the Adjunct Faculty Association, and Dr. Polly Miller, interim director of the MCLI, for organizing that event. It was actually a great acknowledgement of the service of our adjunct faculty. So I have a list, and if I missed anyone, then maybe Gail goes to the microphone and introduce them. But I would like that opportunity to introduce them and have them stand so that we can thank them for their service. Alexandra Burak, Dr. Kimberly Burola, Beverly Smith Dawson, Lisa Genuit, Tom Simpson, Gabriela Carranza. Is that it? Gail?
Julie McCarty.
There's more in the back.
And Tracy.
Tracy what?
She's waiting.
Tahiri.
And Tracy Tahiri.
Anyone else? Hi, Elena.
Elena Matus McDonald.
So I want to say thank you to you because you are wonderful. We appreciate that you have chosen our colleges to be the space where you use your craft as wonderful teachers and your dedication to our students. Thank you.
Chancellor, thank you very much for that event. You made it so special. This is the award that was given by MCLI for the outstanding adjuncts, and we brought one to give to the board.
And let me explain, because I love the award. I think I said so many times how wonderful it was, they gave me one too. It is the work of students at the Maricopa Skills Center in the Precision Machinist program. It's a wonderful, wonderful piece of art.
It's beautiful.
Isn't it gorgeous?
Yeah. I'm going to keep it. Okay, I will keep it. Thank you.
If everyone is nice, we may give one to each of you. Thank you, Gail, for all that you do to support our adjunct faculty. Next report, I would like to ask Ms. Brooke White to please approach the podium and provide a legislative update.
Ms. White.
Thank you, President Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor, and members of CEC. I'm here this evening to provide you a brief update on what's going on at the legislature. This year, 1,057 bills were introduced and 100 memorials and resolutions along with those. To date, the governor has signed 191 of those and vetoed 4. A few updates to mention that affect the makeup of the legislature immediately and also in the next legislative session include Representative Phil Lovis' resignation to serve in President Trump's administration. Mr. Lovis was a Republican from Peoria in Legislative District 22, and his replacement is yet to be named, but one of the 3 nominees will be filling his position probably in the next few days. And those nominees include Frank Carroll, Ben Toma, and a name I'm sure all recognize, Mr. John Heap. Additionally, 2 legislators have announced their run for a Secretary of State race, and they will be leaving their current Senate positions up for grabs in the next election. Senator Steve Montenegro, a Republican from Litchfield Park, will challenge Secretary Reagan in the primary, and Senate Minority Leader Katie Hobbs, an LD24 Democrat, has also joined that same race. The last thing I'll update you on this evening is status of the budget, and as of today, negotiations are still taking place between the governor and legislative leadership. So nothing has happened just yet. Still waiting on that, and it appears as though the governor's university bonding proposal is still the main sticking point
while those negotiations take place. So it's commonly agreed upon that if it's not introduced by tomorrow, it's probably not happening this week. So we look into next week to get that going. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. White. Any comments or questions? Thank you very much. Oh, Ms. Livingston.
The replacement's named tomorrow.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you.
And lastly, Mr. Gutierrez and members of the board, I would like to thank Dr. Robert Sosa. I believe this is his last board meeting as the president of the Faculty Association and the Faculty Executive Council. So, Robert, I would like to thank you for your service, your leadership, your collaboration, and your good work this last year. And that concludes my reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any Vice Chancellor reports? If not, we move to the Board President report, and I have none. So we now move to the order of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the order of the agenda?
I move to approve the order of the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor? Ms. McGrath, did you have a comment? No.
If you could move and second.
If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Consideration of the consent agenda action items. Does anyone wish to remove any item from the consent agenda?
I'd like to move 12.6, approve curriculum.
12.6 is removed and will be considered under the action agenda. Is there any other item to be removed? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended? It has been moved. Is there a second?
I second it.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We move on to consideration of non-consent action items. The first item we will take up is 12.6, approving the curriculum. This is the agenda item that has been removed from the consent agenda. Dr. Paul Dale, would you explain the curriculum 12.6?
President Gutierrez, members of the board, I would be happy to respond to the question and the issue.
Well, thank you. That's very nice of you. Ms. McGrath, is there a question or an issue you wish to address?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. On pages 26, 27, and 28 of the list in the agenda, we have some classes that kind of make me wonder what's the purpose of them. We have representations of society and literature and film, explores how a particular field of endeavor is and has been represented in narrative literature and film using U.S. and international examples from a range of media. Goes on, and same thing, sports in literature and film, business in literature and film, science in literature and film, art in literature and film, education in literature and film, law in literature and film, and medicine in literature and film. These are all listed as English classes. I'm wondering what degree they work towards, how they help our students get through school, and how they help our taxpayers keep the costs down. I'm a little bit upset that we have classes such as these being presented.
President Gutierrez, Mrs. McGrath, members of the board, these are English humanities courses that are reflective of the broad array of courses that we provide around fuller appreciation of creative arts and the arts, critical thinking that happens in appreciation of the arts. It's part of the comprehensive mission of the community college to provide students the opportunity to make choices to enroll in courses. Obviously, film is a very popular medium within the arts, and so of course the descriptions are here. So that is the primary purpose of these types of courses.
Ms. McGrath? Is there any further discussion? If not, you've heard the explanation. Is there a motion on 12.6?
So moved.
Approving the curriculum.
So moved.
It has been moved. Is there a second? It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, before I go there, is there any comment? Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Let the record reflect that Ms. McGrath voted no. Consideration of non-consent action items. Number 14 is Chancellor and the Board. Dr. Harper Marinek or Dr. Thor, would you care to comment on this policy change?
Sorry. President Gutierrez, since the item is about my evaluation, I think I will defer to Dr. Thor to make the introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. If I may, I'd like to address 14.1 as well as 14.2 because they operate together.
You may do so, but each will be voted upon separately.
I understand. So 14.1 removes from existing policy item number 5, under 3.4, monitoring the chancellor's performance, item number 5, and replaces it with the language that is in 14.2. The difference between the two is that the proposed policy allows for the board, in consultation with the chancellor, to utilize an instrument that evaluates the chancellor. So the current process is that the chancellor is evaluated based on the outcomes and the chancellor's limitation. And this provides the ability of the board to use an additional instrument. And this has been reviewed by the policy committee on a number of occasions and was before the board for first reading last month.
Ms. Livingston?
In the review, we all did look at the instrument. I have a question. In past, when we reviewed Dr. Glasper, we had an instrument before us. This is now what I didn't hear the words additional instrument last time. So this is above and beyond what we were requesting for Dr. Glasper? Is that correct?
Dr. Thor?
The instrument that was used for Mrs. Livingston, the instrument that was used for Dr. Glasper, as I was not on the board at the time, of course, and so I have reviewed the files, simply provided the board an opportunity to comment on his report of the accomplishment of the outcomes and the chancellor limitations. And that was the extent of the instrument.
Further discussion?
Mr. Gutierrez.
Ms. McGrath?
Thank you. Under 2C in this document, 2 says a given policy may be monitored in one or more of 3 methods. It says the Chancellor Report, external report, and C is direct board inspection. A designated board member, which means one person, committee, which can be one person or more, or the board as a whole assesses accomplishment of or compliance with a given policy as reasonably interpreted by the chancellor. I've never heard of a policy whereby one person can assess the accomplishment, and I'd like to have C stricken from this language.
Mr. Sarr, and then Ms. Livingston, and then Dr. Thor. So in that order, Mr. Sarr.
Let me address the issue with the limitations. We've got limitations that basically establish a framework within which the chancellor can operate. We've had situations with about 14 different limitations where one or two of those limitations have been breached. I mean, the most obvious recent one was the breach of our information system, which was eventually remedied. That the chancellor at the time took on the role itself to bring us back into compliance with a couple of limitations. But it is up to any one of us to question whether or not the chancellor is remaining or not remaining within those limitations. It can be a group, it can be the entire board, but it can just be one individual board member that questions whether or not the chancellor is working within those boundaries that our limitations establish. That only gives the chancellor the ability to remedy the situation, or at least the board to look at it in total to find out and agree as to whether or not the chancellor is working within a particular limitation or a group of limitations. So I think the ability for one individual to bring this to the board is substantial and needs to be still there, because that one individual may be the only one looking into certain issues that are potentially breaching our limitations.
Ms. Livingston.
I disagree. And I agree with Mrs. McGrath on this one, that 2C should be stricken. Here's why. Are we suddenly, and you know, I'm not a big committee of a whole person. I like when small groups get together. I do, especially on finance. It's just not my forte. But this is a big decision, and we suddenly are upping the game a little bit more than what we did for the past chancellor. I'm just going to be honest. Why is the game changing? And why aren't we not meeting as a whole on this very important decision? I feel like there are drivers. Just my commentary, and I would like that stricken also.
Mr. Gutierrez, I might comment. I'm uncertain why this language is in italics, because this is existing language. It is not part of the proposal that's before the board today. What has gone through policy committee and what has been noticed is the addition of the sentence that I cited earlier.
Let me stress again that the item that we are discussing that's been pointed out by Ms. McGrath is existing policy.
Right.
And if you wish to remove it, we must first go to agenda and then first notice and second notice in order to do that. This is existing policy. So we're not tampering with this particular language in any way in existing policy. But if it appears to any board member that it should be reconsidered in existing policy, then the policy committee can take it up at the request of any board member.
President Gutierrez.
Yes,
Mrs.
ma'am.
McGrath, would you like to make that recommendation?
I thought I did when I said it should be struck.
Let me say again that I will interpret that and hope that the president, or rather the chairman of the policy committee, interprets that as a request to consider that language in the next policy committee meeting for discussion and perhaps for referral to first reading, second reading, and ultimately removal. Mr. Sarr.
It will be part of our next policy meeting.
I hope that clarifies that situation. We are back to consideration of 14.1, rather for discussion of 14.1 and 14.2. Is there any further discussion on 14.1, 14.2? We will make separate motions for each item. Ms. Livingston?
I'm not sure this deals with 14.1 or 14.2, so you may stop me if I'm incorrect. Again, I just feel there are some drivers, and perhaps because it's a small committee, and I'm wondering, President Gutierrez, if we could have a committee of a whole, meaning all board members, when we can all get together to discuss Chancellor Harper Marinek's performance, rather than a few of you meeting.
I was not on
possible?
the. I was not on the committee. The
That's
committee.
what I mean.
The committee was Dr. Thor, Mr. Hendricks.
Just the process.
The process.
Process.
The process of meeting was Dr. Thor, Mr. Hendricks, and Dr. Saar, or Mr. Saar. All of that then came to agenda review for discussion. And agenda review, as you know, is the committee of the whole. And all of it was discussed by agenda review before it was referred to first reading and second reading and then adoption. So each step, you're describing as committee of the whole, committee of the whole began, that discussion began with agenda review. So the entity, that is, the members have seen this and have discussed this in detail before. And that's why it is with us for adoption, because it has gone through that process. Is there any further discussion?
I call for a roll call vote.
Yes, ma'am. 14.1, which is the deletion. 14.2 is the adoption of the new language. So is it 14.1, is there a motion?
So move.
It has been moved. Is there a second? 14.1.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Ms. Smith, the roll call has been called for.
Mrs. Livingston?
We're voting just on 14.1
Oh,
or?
14.1.
No. Wait, which is no and which is yes? Can you please describe?
No is the deletion. If you vote no, then it is not deleted. 14.2 is the adoption, and we would adopt the new language in 14.2. 14.1 removes the existing language.
I don't want 14.1. Then vote no. I don't want 14.1 or 14.2. No, no.
You should vote no on both, then.
No, no.
Mr. Saar?
Aye.
Mrs. Haver?
Aye.
Dr. Thor?
Aye.
Mrs. McGrath?
I'd like to explain my vote,
Ms.
Mr.
McGrath.
President. I see absolutely no reason to be designing new priorities that the Chancellor has to follow. We did very well with evaluating Chancellor Glasper, and I don't see any need to change the ways we evaluate the current Chancellor or any future Chancellors. And this sounds, as Mrs. Livingston pointed out, something is afoot here, and I vote no.
Mr. Hendricks?
Aye.
Mr. Gutierrez?
Aye.
The vote is 5-2.
By a vote of 5-2, 14.1 is adopted. We now go to 14.2. It has been discussed. Is there a motion?
So move.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? 14.2. If not, Ms. Smith, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Haver?
Aye.
Mr. Hendricks?
Aye.
Mrs. Livingston?
No.
Mrs. McGrath?
I'd like to explain my vote.
Ms. McGrath.
As I stated before, I don't see any need for this. I think the evaluation process that we had before was perfectly fine, and we signed a contract with the chancellor, and I think that this is a violation of their contract, and I vote no.
Dr. Thor,
Yes.
Mr. Saar,
Yes.
Mr. Gutierrez.
Aye.
The vote is 5-2.
The motion for 14.2 is adopted. We now move to 15.1, approving the conceptual approval for the renovation and refurbishment of the Arts and Communication Building at Mesa Community College. Vice Chancellor Murphy.
Mr. Gutierrez, board members, this is a request for conceptual approval for renovation and refurbishment of the Arts and Communications Building at Mesa Community College. The estimated cost of the building will be with a project budget of $1.3 million. This has been reviewed by our Capital Development Advisory Council. The overall project really is to do renovation and upgrades to a building that's 36 years old. Renovation upgrades will address everything from asbestos removal to bringing it up to code for the Americans with Disability Act, installing new cabling, new flooring. This will be supported by funds that Mesa Community College has been saving up in its plant fund. This will come from some of their plant fund reserves.
You've heard the description. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, the motion before you is 15.1. The passage thereof, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. We move to 15.2, job order to remove and refurbish the Arts and Communications Building at Mesa. Ms. Murphy.
Mr. Gutierrez, board members, this will be actually the first project in the conceptual approval that the board just provided for item 15.1. It's recommended that the board approve a not-to-exceed job order contracting purchase order in the amount of $400,725 to Diamond Ridge Development. And this will be for the Arts and Communications Building at Mesa Community College. The scope of work includes some drywall demolition, ceiling tile, wall tile, and also basically lighting and other major renovation purposes, and the construction of a ceramic slab storage area.
You've heard the description. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It has been moved. Is there a second?
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. 15.2 is adopted. 15.3. This is the proposed fiscal year 17-18 budget. Vice Chancellor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez, board members, Chancellor, CEC, and guests. This is the request that the board review and preliminarily adopt the 2017-18 budget. By this action of the board, it will enable us to do all of the printing and publication that we have to do in the newspaper before the board can formally adopt the final budget. And I have Ms. Lulu Clow from the budget office. She's our budget manager for the district. She has a brief presentation.
Ms. Clow.
Thank you. Good evening, President Gutierrez, member of the board, Chancellor Report, CEC, and guests. My name is Lulu Clow, and I'm the district budget manager. This evening, I would like to provide a brief presentation of fiscal year 17-18 proposed budget. The proposed budget of Maricopa Community Colleges contains general fund, auxiliary fund, restricted fund, and capital fund. For fiscal year 17-18, the proposed budget is about $1.4 billion. It's going to be decreased about $59.4 million. General fund support day-to-day operations such as salary and wages, utilities, and contractual services. Fiscal year 18 budget will decrease about $473,000. And for the auxiliary fund, it's self-supporting activities such as non-credit instruction, food service, and other auxiliary operation. For fiscal year 18, auxiliary fund will decrease by about $13.5 million, just to be in line with the prior year actual. Restricted funds include federal student finance aid, federal grants and contracts, and Prop 301. For fiscal year 18, restricted fund will decrease by about $18 million, just to be in line with prior year actual. Capital funds include GEO-bond proceed, capital activities such as building, land purchases, and library acquisition. For fiscal year 18, the budget will decrease about $27.8 million due to 2004 bond programs near at completion. Overall, total fiscal year 18 budget is $1.4 billion. Now we're going to review of fiscal year 18 general fund projected new resources. We're going to have about $12 million allocable resources. Mostly the $10.1 million came from property tax from new construction, and SRP and lieu decreased slightly about $27,000 due to lower tax rate. Other fees slightly increase about $20,000, mostly come from Otto County reimbursement. Internal reallocation, $1.9 million is coming from district office budget cut, $1.2 million, and MCOR reallocation about $668,000. The proposed fiscal year 18 uses is we have employee manual. This is going to be used for employees who receive anniversaries and education increases, and also for faculty professional growth, where they went to get education during the summer, come back in the fall, they receive additional salary. And we also needed additional insurance for building and liability insurance. We're going to move Prop 301 faculty to Fund 1. Currently, we have 20 faculty in Prop 301. So by moving 5 faculty to Fund 1, we're going to have 15 faculty left. We also propose to have additional new faculty for 60-40 ratio. Additionally, we have set aside for salary adjustment and classification and compensation study. And we also set aside about $4.5 million for One Maricopa or Student Success Initiative. And this is budget adoption timeline. If the governing board adopt the preliminary budget this evening, we will come back for final budget adoption in May 23rd. With that, is there any question?
Is there any discussion on the budget?
Mr. President.
Ms. McGrath?
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Clow, how much does it cost to operate Red Mountain campus of Mesa Community College?
I would defer that question to President Sassan.
President Sassan.
Mrs. McGrath, Mr. Gutierrez, it's $7 million a year.
And I'd like to know how many footsies we have at Mesa Red Mountain campus.
Mrs.
Mr.
McGrath,
Sun.
Mr. Gutierrez, approximately 1,100 footsie, about 2,200 students the last time I checked.
Ms. McGrath?
Sounds extremely expensive. It's been suggested in the past that we close Red Mountain. Many of the students are already taking classes at the main campus in Mesa, and I think that this is a terrible expenditure of public funds, and I can't support keeping Red Mountain campus open.
Is there any further questions of Ms. Clow? If not, you've heard the description of the budget. By the way, just want to say this. This isn't the first time we've seen this. The board has a committee of budget and finance. It's chaired by Dr. Thor. And the budget has gone through extensively, has been discussed extensively, including in a budget and finance committee moments before we went into this meeting. So I just wanted to mention that so you don't think we're adopting it without having knowledge of what's in the budget. You've heard the description. Is there a motion to adopt the budget?
So move.
It has been moved. Is there a second?
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I call for a roll call vote.
Further discussion? If not, Ms. Smith, would you call the roll?
How come we weren't all given one?
Mrs. Livingston?
Yes.
Mr. Saar?
Yes.
Mrs. Haver?
Yes.
Dr. Thor?
Yes.
Mrs. McGrath?
I'd like to explain my vote,
Ms.
President
McGrath.
Gutierrez. I think that we need to be better watchdogs of the taxpayers' money. The taxpayers spend a lot of money in this schooling. For every hour that every student takes, they pay $86. The taxpayers pay $243. I think it's a waste of their money to keep Red Mountain campus open. I cannot support this budget. I vote no.
Mr. Hendricks?
No.
Mr. Gutierrez?
Aye.
The vote is 5-2.
By a vote of 5-2, the budget is adopted.
Preliminary budget.
Preliminary. Let me point that out. This is a preliminary document. SAR is correct. As Ms. Clow pointed out, the final decision will be made in a board meeting in May. But this document will be published at a variety of papers, etc., and will be available to the public to review, and we will take their comments before doing a final adoption. 15.4, the selection of consultant to provide enhanced student life support service. Ms. Murphy?
Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor Report, it's recommended that the board approve the selection of Greenwood Hall to provide enhanced student life cycle services, including enrollment, retention of student support services at Rio Salado College for a 2-year period with a fee not to exceed $2,898,840, including reimbursable expenses. After 2 years, Rio Salado will have the ability to extend the contract for an additional 3 years on an annual basis. According to Rio Salado, they recommend that by contracting with Greenwood Hall for services that they normally use part-time labor for, They can do it more efficiently and at a lower cost, expecting to save about $1.3 million over the 2-year period of the contract.
You've heard the explanation. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. 15.5, approval of a $3 million grant from Department of Commerce, EDA, for renovation of building and equipment to outfit the Maricopa Makerspace. Ms. Murphy.
Mr. Gutierrez, board members, Chancellor Harper-Marinick, it is recommended that the governing board approve receipt of $3 million in grant funds from the U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration to support the renovation of the building and equipment to outfit the Maricopa Makerspace. The former Stauffer Annex, owned by Maricopa in downtown Phoenix, is planned to be transformed into a STEAM-focused makerspace and available for all Maricopa students, faculty, and staff.
You've heard the explanation. Is there a motion, Mr. Sarr? You'll make a comment. We'll have the motion, and then we'll open up for discussion.
My
Mr.
motion is to tentatively accept the grant funds that enable Gateway Community College to further study the possible makerspace project in downtown Phoenix without committing further district funds or governing board support for the project as proposed.
Is there a second?
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Ms. Livingston.
Most of you know I teach. And I was having a conversation with a junior today. And it was over lunch with another teacher and several other students in there. Well, anyway, she was talking about her daughter's, the other teacher, makerspace unit. And of course they use like toilet paper rolls and, all different types of cheap types of situations. And I said, well, tonight we're going to be thinking about, our own little makerspace. And the student next to me said, I want to be an engineer. Explain makerspace to me. I said, well, it's this, kind of thing where big machines are in there and you get to create and yada, yada, yada. Is it expensive, Mrs. Livingston? Yes. I hope you vote no. That's from your future. That's from your future. They know how much this stuff, they don't know how much this stuff costs, but they know how much education costs. She wants to be an engineer. She said, no one needs that. They need quality education. Can you spend it on good things, Mrs. L? And with that, I close.
Further discussion. Ms. McGrath.
Thank you. As I understand it, Mr. Sarr made a substitute motion.
He made a motion.
Mr.
And
Sarr,
the motion has been seconded.
would you read your motion again, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sarr.
My motion reads that the Maricopa Community College District accept the grant funds that enable Gateway Community College to further study the possible work makerspace project in downtown Phoenix without committing further district funds or governing board support for the project as proposed.
Ms. McGrath.
Thank you, Mr. Sarr. Thank you, Mr. President. I really don't see any need to spend any more time on this because I cannot imagine that it could be successful. It's right on Van Buren Street in downtown Phoenix. There is no parking associated with the building, and it will cost a fortune to operate it. And I just don't see that people will be inclined to go to downtown Phoenix with no parking.
Mr. Sarr, and then I'd like to make a comment. Mr. Sarr.
We heard this, first of all, back in November, and I think I've been pretty openly opposed to this since that time. But I want to make sure you understand what I'm opposed to. I'm not opposed to the makerspace concept. That's been successful in lots of places, and I think it could be successful for us too, just not in this particular location. As Mrs. McGrath said, there's no adjacent parking. The parking arrangement with the City of Phoenix is good for 5 years. And I could go on and on about why I think this has some problems in this location. But I would think it's possible for Gateway to do a better job of defining how this project will work both financially and operationally, to make sure that it's an investment that this district should make. And I give them the opportunity over the next couple months to bring us an enhanced performa that will possibly change my mind in this location. I also think it's a possibility that since we're really not spending any of this bond money, this grant money, while we're going through this process, that if we determine that there just isn't a reason to pursue the project at this location, we can give the money back to the government agency that gave it to us and move on. It's also possible that another location may be opened up in this discussion that makes this project worthwhile and takes care of all the concerns that Mrs. McGrath and I and others have in this project. And I think Gateway staff is fully capable of opening those doors and making sure that this particular project becomes a viable solution. If not, we move on.
Thank you, Mr. Sarr. Let me, if I may, Ms. McGrath, did you have something else?
I have one question, Mr. President. When does this grant run out, the opportunity to take it? How long is it good for?
If I may, that's precisely what it's going to address. The grant as drafted has received, has in fact already begun. We are operating under an extension. Mr. Sarr's motion is very cautionary and very restrictive, but it allows the opportunity to see if in fact we can go forward at this location. There's some of us who believe this is the appropriate location. It may come as a shock, but downtown Phoenix is booming. And development is taking place. Arizona State University has 14,000 students at the last I read, a resident in the area. It is I think, a tremendous and wonderful opportunity if it works. And what Mr. Sarr's motion allows is to assess whether it works. In order for it to work, certain things have to happen. One, there has to be an extension of the grant date, which, as I said, is already passed. We're already operating an extension. If there is such a period of time, then it allows for certain questions to be answered that are in the business plan of Makerspace. It includes the following. It includes a final agreement, or a tentative agreement, if you will, inking an agreement with Arizona State University for a financial contribution as defined in the pro forma. It also allows the opportunity for a contractual agreement with the City of Phoenix to resolve the parking issue. That amount of time is allowed, and if that comes before us, and those two issues are resolved, that raises two other issues. Another issue is the cost of this. This is a warehouse. This is a very old warehouse. It's kind of hot stuff at downtown Phoenix. It is on Van Buren. But if the parking issue is resolved, not only there, but with a church that is 1 block away that also has offered parking, and that has to, an agreement, a formal agreement has to be arrived there. And finally, the business plan calls for sponsors, that is, major corporations who are going to take advantage of this for their employees and for students and for apprentices, etc., paid internships. They would sign an agreement to become in effect a sponsor, and a sponsor, each sponsorship is estimated to be $12,000 or so dollars. So the adoption today of this motion allows for the completion of those steps. It does not allow for the district then to automatically sign the grant. It allows, having completed those steps, for the district to come before, or rather the Gateway Community College to come back before us. I fully expect if all of those steps have been completed, that the majority of us will agree to go forward. If they haven't been completed, there's going to be either some tough questions or a rejection. But that is the consequence of this motion. Look, we've been allowing, or rather adopting, federal fund grants here, as you know, many of you who follow what we do at the board. Without this, some would consider onerous conditions. Others would say, and I think appropriately so, that there's real questions about this project. The age of the building, the parking issue, whether or not the partners that have told us verbally that they will participate will in fact participate. So some real questions here, and so I think there's some real reasons to adopt it in this fashion. And that's why this very, very cautionary motion is before us. I appreciate the time, the care, the hours that Mr. Saar has spent scouring over this proposal and the motion that's before us. That completes my comments. Any further comments? If not, there has been a motion, there has been a second. So,
Mr. President,
Ms. McGrath.
My question was not answered. How much longer do they have to hang on to this grant? When will it expire?
It doesn't expire. We have to ask for an extension. If they refuse to give us an extension, then the steps that I described cannot be completed. And if they cannot be completed, we cannot draw the money down without those steps being completed as Mr. Saar's motion is drafted. So that the only way we can draw the money down is if they come back and satisfy the majority of us that we can proceed forward. Mr. Saar.
Based on correspondence from the grantor, the date that they've given us currently is May 9th.
Any further discussion?
Roll call vote, please.
If not, Ms. Smith, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Haver?
Aye.
Mr. Hendricks? Mrs. Livingston?
I'd like to explain my vote.
Ms. Livingston.
We've heard so much about this project, and I personally have I've overthought it. When I talked about it with a student today, one of your future students, and I saw her passion about asking a college to save money. That was the answer. Now, I know this grant doesn't go for other specifics, but wouldn't it be nice that this money only went to kids and not objects? It doesn't. It goes to a building and objects to create. We're not about buildings and objects, or maybe we are this evening. I'm about kids. With that, I vote no.
Mrs. McGrath?
Nay.
Mr. Saar?
Aye.
Dr. Thor?
Aye.
Mr. Gutierrez?
Aye.
The vote is 4-3.
The motion by a vote of 4-3 is adopted. 15.5 is adopted. We now move on to 16.1. These are first and second readings. 16.1, Chancellor Marinick or Mr. Saar, who would like to address this? Chancellor Merrick.
I don't know why it's making all that noise.
They don't want you to address this.
I guess not. But Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board, I was going to just ask Mr. Saar.
Mr. Saar.
Because yet again, this is about the Chancellor.
We have, in our policy committee, looked at a number of changes to policy. In this case, we're looking at those changes to limitations. What you see in front of you are language. This is first read. It's a chance to talk about some of the more definitive text in those limitations policies that make it a little bit better for us to evaluate them as board members and in the evaluation of the chancellors staying within those limitations that we've established.
This is not an item for adoption. It is a first reading. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, we will also discuss this further at the next policy meeting, as well as agenda review prior to the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Saar. Any further discussion on this item? If not, let us move on to the next item, which is 16.2, also on the limitations policies for the Chancellor. Mr. Saar.
I won't repeat myself. It's the same thing as we had in the previous one.
We just going to do it twice.
Mr. President, may I speak on this matter?
Of course, Ms. Graf.
Thank you. It's titled Chancellor Limitation Policies, and it puts in motion new policies. One says, in addition, the Chancellor will not allow students to be without adequate counseling and advising as measured by continuous improvement in retention and completion. What happens if we don't have an increase in retention and completion? You've just been handed an absolute perfect excuse to fire the Chancellor over something which she has no control or very little control. The next one is the Chancellor will not allow faculty and staff to be without professional development that enables them to perform current jobs and compete for advancement opportunities. This tells me that we're going to give endless possibilities for further training to the staff, and where's the, it doesn't sound like there's any end there. The next one says the Chancellor will not allow resources to be expended or invested without measurable evidence of a return on investment. That isn't the Chancellor's job. That's the board's job. And I cannot imagine why in the world we would be judging the Chancellor on something that is not even within her duties. And the last one, to me, is the most egregious. It's titled Mission Sustainability. With respect to mission sustainability, the Chancellor will not fail to embrace national best practices in educational delivery and operations that adequately produce measurable outcomes. In addition, the Chancellor will not allow the documented needs of local businesses to go unaddressed. My business needs a new air conditioning unit. I think I've just found a reason to fire the Chancellor. This is absolute insanity. I cannot imagine why we would, as a board, vote for something like this. To me, it is just an exploration package to find ways to find fault with the Chancellor. I have no fault with the Chancellor. She's doing a good job, and to change all of these measures that she's graded on are just, to me, seem so unnecessary. I cannot imagine why we're doing this. It's a slap in the face to the Chancellor, and it's just unconscionable, I think.
Let me point out once more that these items are before us as information items that will proceed further to the Policy Committee, which is a committee of the whole. All members are invited and will participate in that discussion. This is, they are not here before us for adoption. Our process requires various readings of policies so that members can become aware of them and opine on them, but they are not here for adoption. Ms. Livingston, and then Mr. Saar.
I understand this is just a first read, but I would have to agree with Mrs. McGrath, and I'm not trying to be a negative Nelly on the board here this evening. She can't control all of this. And why are we suddenly holding her to a higher standard than past chancellors? It seems rather like a hunt. And I'm not sure. What are we looking for? But again, if Mrs. McGrath's business needs a, new air conditioner, and mine needs new tires, and somebody else's needs oil or new windows, hey, we're going to hold the chancellor to that, I guess. I think we need to go back to the drawing board.
Further discussion? Let us move on then to item 17.1, employments and separations. Ms. Basil.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board, and Chancellor Harper-Marinick. It's Barbara Basil, Associate Vice Chancellor for HR. Tonight I'm reporting on the separations and hire for the period of March 2017. During that period, there were 27 separations and 19 hires. Happy to take any questions that you may have.
Is there any discussion? If not, let us move on to item 18.1, the budget analysis report. Ms. Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Members of the board, this is the first of two monitoring reports that we have for this evening. This one is the monthly spending report for the fiscal year through the end of March. We're seeing spending comparable to the same point in prior years, and we are maintaining our financial stability requirements.
Discussion. If not, let us move on to 18.2, the general obligation bond report. Ms. Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez, board members, Chancellor Harper-Marinick. This is the quarterly report on the 2004 general obligation bond spending. As of this time, we're seeing that we've spent about 94.5% of our bonds. Actually, they are all committed to different projects for the remaining balances, all but $3,000 of the spending authority. And as we move forward through next year, we anticipate a further drawdown on the bonds as planned.
Discussion. If not, Chancellor, did you want to say something? No. Okay. If not, let us move on to employee group reports. The first item is the Faculty Executive Council report. Mr. Sosa.
President Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor Harper-Marinick, CEC, and guests, I have a twofold purpose here tonight. As the Chancellor pointed out, this is a transition meeting, so I'd like to take a moment to thank Selena Bednarik. Fortunately, she had to leave for some family business a little bit earlier, but I'd like to go on record that she has been a tremendous mentor to me and quite an advocate for faculty. So I appreciate the time that I've had to work with her on the Faculty Executive Council. I might also like to take a moment to just point out Mike Mitchell over here. You can stand up, Mike. He will be the incoming president, so the next board meeting, he'll be yours. And then we've had an election since we were here last, and John Champel from Phoenix College is going to be our Faculty Association president-elect. And my second purpose is to make a formal statement, so I will awkwardly transition into that right now. At the last two governing board meetings, President Chris Bliss of the Classified Staff Council presented several allegations. Given the nature of the allegations, the Faculty Association supports Dr. Harper Marinick's recommendation and the governing board's support for hiring an independent investigator. The Faculty Association strongly supports both Chris Bliss's right and obligation to act on behalf of the CSC and the due process rights of the accused. As such, we have remained mostly silent on the allegations. The Faculty Association declares its unwavering support for and commitment to shared governments and asks the Maricopa Community College District also reaffirm its long-standing commitment to all its employees. The Faculty Association also strongly supports an important aspect of shared governance, namely respect for a diversity of opinions and the ability to dissent from a majority or leadership viewpoint without fear. Maricopa needs dissent, especially during this time of change. If dissent is discouraged or absent, this threatens free speech, free inquiry, and the ability of our shared discourse about the future of Maricopa. The Faculty Association holds that the Maricopa Community College's great success results directly from a universal investment in and practice of shared governance, which has defined how faculty, staff, and administration interact and fulfill our duties and functions collaboratively. While staff and faculty duties differ, the district relies on excellence, motivation, and productivity empowered by shared governance from both staff and faculty in order to provide our students with the high-quality education and support they need to succeed. Each employee group has vehicles for participating in shared governance, including the meet and confer process for faculty, the collaborative policy development process for staff, participation on CEC, regular meetings with district leadership, and regular participation on district and college committees. These processes exist to ensure that major decisions affecting students and employees in our districts incorporate the perspectives, knowledge, and interests of the employees who are experts in their fields. Shared governance is a catalyst for student success because it helps maintain an environment for employee success. The Faculty Association pledges to act in partnership with all stakeholders to do what is best for students. Faculty working relationships are built upon a collaborative relationship that is rooted in shared interests and respect. The qualities that govern a faculty working relationship should govern the working relationships for all employees. The Faculty Association always wants to act cordially and respectfully as we support our colleagues in the Classified Staff Council. Yet we also need to directly address the strained working relationships between the Classified Staff Council and District HR. Constructive working environments encourage and support the free exchange of ideas and difficult conversations. All employees need to feel comfortable addressing any issue related to their work environment. The working relationship and trust between District HR and the CSC has degenerated so dramatically that employees do not feel this freedom. Collectively, we must work to ensure that a breakdown like this does not occur again. Systemic failures in communication and trust led to this point. To prevent a repeat of this situation, we request the creation of a task force composed of staff, faculty, administration, and governing board members to explore ways to promote and improve shared governance for all stakeholders in the district. Only with a shared understanding and commitment to shared governance can we get past our current difficulties and move forward in a positive direction, restoring the successful strategy of collaborative teamwork that has kept our district thriving since 1962. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you, Mr. Sosa. Is there any questions or discussion? Mr. Saar.
I just want to thank you for your last year and previous years as well. I know that you are now going to take the position that Mrs. Bednarik had, so I hope that you are as good a mentor to your Mike as you have had before. I have no doubt that you will.
That'll be a difficult task.
But thank you for your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Ms. McGrath.
I too would like to say that Dr. Sosa has done a wonderful job. He's been very cooperative. I'm so pleased that he and his group support the Chancellor, and it's been a pleasure working with you, and I don't know how anybody can do better. We're hoping, but I don't think it's possible.
Well, I'll be on the back wall, so if he's not doing well, just let me know. I'll smile. All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sosa. Adjunct Faculty Association report, Ms. Haas.
President Gutierrez, members of the board, Dr. Harper Marinek, members of CEC and guests, I'm Patricia Gale Haas, President of the Adjunct Faculty Association. It's been a year since our major adjunct survey. Many solutions are still in the works, but I want to report on some things on our progress. While it's been a challenging year for Maricopa, for the entire family, it's been relatively positive for adjuncts. All 10 of our colleges are seeking ways to make sure adjuncts are recognized and that adjuncts have the resources that they need to be effective in the classroom. During the year, there have been some developments. AFA cannot actually take the credit for these developments, but we will take the benefits. According to an old document I found, adjuncts have been asking to be internal employees when they apply for a job for over 10 years or 20 years. And that's now happening. Additionally, starting July 1, adjuncts will earn sick days. Communication seems to be improving, and our email network seems to be increasingly responsive. That's a good starting point since information is critical to help with stability and retention. I would like to take a few minutes to thank the really important people who make us successful. While adjuncts are the face of almost 70% of Maricopa to the students, I would like to recognize some of those who make it possible for us to enjoy the work that we do. I would like to thank the administrative secretaries who organize our departments and answer our questions. Hundreds of questions. I'm especially partial to those who bring us supplies and listen to our complaints and solve our problems. Thank you to all the administrative staff who keep our schools running, scheduling classes, paying the bills, juggling facilities and people. You make it happen. We're all grateful to the IT departments who keep our computers working and put in our light bulbs, even when I call with an emergency because my projector just blew up in the middle of class. They were there in 10 minutes. They spend hours and hours worrying and planning how to keep our systems safe when thousands of independent users have so many different skill levels. For some of us, properly logging off Windows 10 is a challenge. Thank you for being so quick and kind to respond to our basic and repetitive questions. Thank you to the groundskeepers who take pride in our attractive campuses. It might seem like a thankless job, but it's not. Thank you. We appreciate those who work hard to keep the facilities clean and functioning, whether it's clearing the trash or cleaning the floor. Thank you for maintaining running water in our bathrooms and setting up tables and chairs for our endless activities. Thank you to the people who keep our copy machines working and keep us supplied with paper. As far as I know, we've not been rationed lately, and we appreciate it. As a matter of fact, I can sit at home, prepare an activity, upload it onto a website, and the next day, 50 or 60 copies of my activity magically show up in the workroom. I love that. I have been busy enough this year to appreciate those who feed us at our events. It isn't easy, and they have a pretty good system. Some of the most delightful folks this year have been those who have helped and served us cheerfully, making our events complete with good food and good times. To those who are completely overworked with helping our students get into classes, we appreciate you more than you can know. A huge thanks to those who work directly with our students, cooking, coaching, service learning, club advisors, helping our students become better citizens. More than once, I've directed a student to counseling services. It's so valuable to know that you are going to do everything possible to help our students with your professional wisdom. There is a special reward for the saints that work in our centers for teaching and learning, dedicating almost all of their efforts to making us successful. As we increasingly learn to take advantage of all that you do for us, our students will be increasingly successful. So thank you. I would like to say a special thanks to our school safety officers. I imagine them losing sleep over maintaining our campus safety, designing systems and making plans. We grouch at them over it, and they always smile and do the right thing. We really appreciate their cheerful attitude, tireless professionalism, and especially when they're pulling my flash drive out of the lost and found drawer for the 3rd time this year. Over this last year, I've begun to see some of the mysterious labyrinth of a district office. I'm astounded at the number of hours, effort, and labor it takes to collect and report data and analyze reports and keep track of the unimaginable variety of programs and activities, and best of all, get us a paycheck. Thanks to all of you from the 6th floor to the front desk. Thanks to the guardians who watch for accuracy and efficiency. Thanks to those who see what could be but keep on working with what is, because people depend on you. Thanks to the visionaries who imagine how we can be better and more effective in the future. In my opinion, adjuncts are feeling more valued than we reported last year. While we realize there's some very difficult decisions and situations on the table, we want to thank the Chancellor's Office and the school administrators for this year of special attention. I believe it's been fruitful. We look forward to more positive change. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hart. Further questions for discussion? Ms. Livingston.
That was the nicest letter I've heard in a long time, and thank you for having that at the end of this very long day.
I just
Mr.
want to thank you, because it made a difference in how adjuncts are treated, quite frankly. I really appreciate the awards ceremony that you did. I've had some personal issues here recently and wasn't able to make it, but I've followed through on it, and that's really well deserved on those on behalf of those that won the awards. But we know that 70% of our students take classes from adjuncts, so they are so important, as are our full-time faculty who help adjuncts in many ways as well. So
Absolutely, and we work well with them. They mentor us, and it's really on the ground. It feels like teamwork.
yeah.
But I have to say about the awards, thanks to the Chancellor's Office, to MCLI, made a fabulous event, and I think adjuncts, it's just filtering down. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Haas.
Mr. President.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. McGrath.
Thank you. I too would like to thank the adjunct faculty, and I thank you for that report. I think our adjunct faculty are greatly underappreciated. Their pay scale has not risen in a long time. I think they're greatly underpaid, and I'm looking forward to the day when the Affordable Health Care Act is changed, and they will no longer be under the restriction of hours that has been put on them with the result of that. So hopefully better times are ahead for our adjuncts, and thank you.
I'd like to agree with Mrs. McGrath. I, too, appreciate the adjuncts and the wonderful job that you've done this year, and I look to improvements because I feel the adjuncts certainly deserve more than what they've been getting, and thank you very much.
Further discussion? If not, the next item on the agenda is employee and constituency groups. Ms. Bliss. Thank you, Ms. Bliss. Community Linkage Governing Board Reports, Dr. Thor.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. We have definitely entered the ceremonial season, and it's really a wonderful time of the year when we get to recognize our students as well as our employees. So I attended as many events as I could, as I know other governing board members did. Just briefly, I attended the Runway to Success on April 7th, which was Gateway's fundraiser at the Phoenix Zoo. And it was an absolutely phenomenal success with students, particularly from their career and technical education programs, serving as models on the runway while their stories were told. And I think that this is an event that we should be bringing community leaders and legislators and so on to, because it really tells the story of who the community colleges are serving. On April 11th, I attended the Human Library event also at Gateway. And this is a framework for enabling conversations with that challenge stereotypes and prejudices, and an individual with a story to tell serves as the book, and then the participants serve as the readers and engage with the book. I attended a session called From Refugee to Community Organizers with a refugee from Somalia telling his story and what motivated him to then become a community organizer. I learned a great deal. It was very powerful. I understand this concept originated at Glendale Community College and has now been adopted by Chandler Gilbert as well. On April the 12th, I attended as a president, was one of my favorite events of the year, and that's the Innovation of the Year Awards. And what struck me about the awards this year is that so many of the innovations that we were recognized were brought about with really minimal expenditure. The innovation was the collaboration and the creative work of faculty and staff. And what also struck me is that many of the innovations could easily be scaled to our other colleges. And so I would encourage us to continue to find ways to share those best practices, or as the Chancellor prefers to say, effective practices across the district, because they're very worthy of being replicated. The next day, April 13th, I attended the scholarship reception where the recipients of the Chancellor's Scholarship were recognized. And I was impressed that the Chancellor's Scholarship includes all tuition and fees for a full year, plus $500 for books and supplies, so a very significant scholarship. And then additionally, recipients of foundation scholarships at the individual colleges were recognized. Another treat was April 15th, which was the 25th anniversary gala for Estrella Mountain Community College. And it was a sold-out event at the Wigwam in Litchfield Park. And many significant representatives of the community were there, including a lot of mayors and city council members. But for me, without a doubt, the highlight was the keynote speaker, Mr. Harold Branch, who is one of EMCC's early alumni. And his message was spellbinding. I mean, he was absolutely an incredible speaker and a wonderful representative of Estrella Mountain and the Maricopa Community Colleges. And lastly, I attended on April the 18th the Apprenticeship Award Luncheon, which was a real hardship because it was at the Desert Oasis dining room at Scottsdale Community College, and we were served a fabulous gourmet meal. The purpose of the apprenticeship luncheon was to recognize 3 of our employees that have completed apprenticeship as electricians. A couple comments about that. One, it was a wonderful experience for me to sit at the table with our crafts employees, because I don't often get an opportunity to talk with them in any extended period of time. And I learned a great deal about their experiences and some of their thoughts about current circumstances in the district. But I also want to point out, since I do find myself occasionally as the historian of the board, that the presentation of the certificates to apprentices used to be done at the governing board meeting. And I would really like to see the board think about returning to more celebratory activities like we used to have in the past. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Torr. Mr. Sire.
This is the time of year, as was said, that activities pop up on my calendar every day, and it's a fun time of the year because it's a chance to celebrate the successes that we've had over the last year. Notwithstanding what I've attended the last month or two, there's some things coming up I think that all of you need to look at as something to really enjoy the time that you spend. And one of which is tomorrow's Hero of Education dinner, which as part of our fundraising with the foundation. I look forward to that and listening to this year's recipient. But Thursday night is one of my favorite events. Unfortunately, I've got other obligations, but I'll look on it on the website when it's finally out there, which is the Artists of Promise, where we get a chance to really see how talented our students are when it comes to writing, when it comes to the visual arts, the performing arts. It's all there on the stage and in the lobby to see. I've been there every year that I can remember, and I walk out of there saying, this is just like going to a live version of one of the television summer programs that I tend to watch. Only this is our own students. This is not ASU or professionals. These are community college students who have incredible talent, and I encourage all of you to attend. It's free, and it's downtown Phoenix, so you can go online and look it up. It is well worth your time.
Ms. Haber.
Yes, I'd like to mention something that we celebrated a few days after the last general meeting, and that was a luncheon of the Valley Leadership Group. And I'm very happy to say that the Woman of the Year happened to be our own Chancellor, Maria Harper Marinick. And so it was a very joyous occasion. And I attended the Creative Writing Awards dinner that was at the Desert Oasis restaurant, and there was beautiful jazz as we entered, and the food was outstanding, and the award winners were able to recite from different pieces that they had written, and that was quite entertaining. So it was a wonderful evening. It always surprises me when I'm thanked for coming, because I think I should thank the people who invited me, because these are wonderful experiences. I've been very busy on the committee for the General Counsel. I'm quite impressed with Cizek and Associates who've been doing the search. They are thorough. I believe we're going to have an outstanding General Counsel, and I've really enjoyed going through the process. A couple experiences that I've had that I just will mention in short, that were not as a board member, but just for the enjoyment of for my husband and me, was jazz at Paradise Valley Community College that was performed outside. It was just really a wonderful way to spend the evening. And also listening to Marshall Trimble speak at the new Scottsdale Museum of the West. He's a former professor at Scottsdale Community College. So it's been a very enjoyable month for me.
Mrs. Livingston.
A woman of few words. I passed, but looking forward to graduation.
Mr. Hendricks. Ms. McGrath.
Thank you, Mr. President. When the rest of you were looking at the animals at the zoo, I was at Chandler Gilbert campus attending the Emerging Scholars dinner. And I had the pleasure of sitting at a table with a scholar who built his first robot when he was 6. There were 20 scholars honored, and I have never been so impressed with bright minds in my life. It was absolutely wonderful. I too attended several of these other events. Estrella Mountain Community College 25th anniversary was really fun. And on the 18th, I was able to attend the Arizona Capital Times newspaper monthly breakfast, and it was on education, and our chancellor did a really great job as one of the panelists. The president of Grand Canyon was there, and the others apparently weren't very important since I can't recall them. But Dr. Harper Marinick did a wonderful job. It was really, I was very proud that she was there. And I, too, enjoyed the apprenticeship luncheon, and I know why you talk about the restaurant there at Scottsdale. It is unbelievable, amazing. And it was great to meet these guys that do the real hard work on our campuses, and it was they were lovely people, and I appreciated it very much.
Thank you, Mr. Grath. I just want to mention just one. We can go on this, and next month we'll really bore you because there's about 22 events that each of us will be going to, and you'll have to hear about each one of them. Those of you who aren't smart enough to run out of here right before all this begins. Let me just mention one, and that was Gateway's Pathway to Success. I was invited to this, and Sharon said, we got to go to this. So I said, okay, we're going to this. And it sounded like a fashion show. That's the way it sounded like. I mean, it was a fashion show. And I had very little interest in going to a fashion show, but there was going to be free wine. And so I was persuaded to go. This turned out to be, frankly, a unique event. It's not something like I've not seen at any other community college, at any other event. It was the story of our students, some of them really tough stories of how they succeeded and how they made it, and the recognition that they absolutely deserved. But frankly, what impressed me was not only the recognition they deserved, but the fact that this was an amazing evening that legislators should be at, that our business community, the Phoenix 40 should be at. Because it told a story of what every one of our community colleges are doing. Gateway happened to do it, happened to put it on. But I think it's a story that could be shared by every one of our community colleges. And we've just got to take that event next year and make it a major event for this district because it tells everyone's story, whether it's Phoenix or Estrella. We all share these extraordinary students. So just wanted to share that with you. I think we have one last item, and that is community reports, external community reports. Arizona School Boards Association, Mr. Saar.
Nothing to report.
ACCT, Mr. Saar.
Same.
Let me report myself on the Arizona Association District of Governing Boards. A special meeting will be held in Flagstaff in the first week of June to decide on an overall community outreach strategy that every district would participate in. It is an attempt to take our stories statewide, to take our stories to the larger community, and we hope begin to influence the larger community, and we hope begin to raise the profile of community colleges and their importance to the economy of the state of Arizona. So that discussion will take place in Flagstaff next week. Is there any other business before the board? If not, some announcements. May 9th, 4 p.m., Policy Committee at the Governing Board Room. Also on the 9th at 5 o'clock, Agenda Review. At 6 o'clock, Executive or Work Session. At May 23rd, Budget and Finance Committee. Also on the 23rd at 6:30 p.m., the regular board meeting. And on May 25th, an executive session if needed. If there is no other business before the board, we stand adjourned.